ladies and gentlemen, and creatures of the outside world. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Bricked Up podcast, building your algorithm brick by brick. I am Liam Fitzpatrick, aka Lego Liam 1803, and I am joined here today by my best friend, my good friend, my close friend, the Philly cheese of Philadelphia, Virginia. Philip Wagner, aka the American Mutant. Introduce yourself, Philip.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm excited for our very first podcast. I've been looking very much forward to this, and I really hope you guys enjoy our topic today. Liam, could you tell everybody what our topic about today is?
Our topic here today, my good friend, is the video game franchise that brought us both together many years ago, that being the Resistance franchise.
Yeah, man, it this franchise has really been a big part of my life, gaming history, but just like life in general. I mean, like you said, it brought us together as friends, and it is still a video game that both you and I thoroughly enjoy, even to this day, and its related media and the games that came after it as well. So I'm super excited to talk about it today.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. In case the audience is unaware of, allow me to explain this video game series. It was developed originally by Insomniac Games. It was supposed to be on the PS2. There was even a PS2 build for it, but it was changed to be a launch title for the PlayStation 3. And it was a bestseller. It came packaged with the console, which helped a lot of sales. It also sold well independently, and it became the first greatest hits title for the PlayStation 3, Resistance Fall of Man. And it was followed up in 2008 with Resistance 2, followed by a spin off for the PlayStation Portable developed by Bend Studio, the guys behind Days Gone, called Resistance Retribution. And then in 2011, Insomniac released their last Resistance game, capping off the main trilogy, Resistance 3. And then in 2012, the now defunct Nihilistic Software, or Instigate Games, I think they were called in the end, developed Resistance Burning Skies for the PlayStation Vita. There was also a handful of other content that came out alongside the games, including two novels from the notorious William C. Dietz, Resistance: The Gathering Storm and Resistance: A Hole in the Sky, and a series of novels published, not series of novels, a series of comics published by Wildstorm, with the first being written by the one, the only Dan Abnett, and the rest written
Woo!
by Mike Koska, who is responsible for the I think one of the more popular runs of the Venom comics and
Mhm.
some GI Joe comics.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, and there has been a handful of other merch that was released during the time when Resistance was popular, such as shirts and action figures, of which I own a few. So, Philip, to segue our way into talking about the games, let's talk about our history with them. Would you like to go
Oh
first?
boy. I would love to go first. And man, this brings open like this feels like me opening up the a photo album of my life because I believe I was 5 or 6 years old when Resistance Fall of Man come it came out, and I very vividly have a memory of going to our local Target with
Hmm.
my dad, mom, and I think my oldest sister Haley. She was a baby at that time, a baby. I remember we were going into the electronics section, and I remember my dad pointing out wanting like getting the PlayStation 3, the very first model of PlayStation 3, which was the OG model that could play PlayStation 2 games as well.
Yes,
If
sir.
any of you listeners are out there, remember that console, a very perfect console. But we're not talking about the console. But the very first game that he got with that PlayStation 3 was Resistance Fall of Man. And oh, little did I know of where that would lead me in my life and the people I would meet.
Mhm.
which my best friend right here on the other side of the screen. Um, but anyway, I can't recall too many memories because like I've played Resistance Fall of Man dozens of times, many playthroughs, even on the hardest difficulty, right? So I couldn't really pick out any specific playthrough other than man, I really enjoyed playing that game a lot. Um, but it would not be until probably several years later after initially buying Resistance Fall of Man once I really started kind of dipping my toes into the wider internet, forums and watching YouTube and whatnot, would I later find out, announced to me, that there was a Resistance 2 and a third game too. And I remember after one of my doctor's appointments in a nearby town, when we stopped by a GameStop that was in that town's mall, and Lord behold, there was Resistance 2 and Resistance 3 on the shelves, and man, did I have so much fun with both Resistance 2 and Resistance 3 initially. Now, I will say Resistance Fall of Man is still probably my favorite out of the three, even though I do like aspects of both 2 and 3, but for me, Resistance Fall of Man will always hold a special place in my heart. And then for it again, maybe like 5, 6 years or so, right? That's when I start kind of looking a little bit further into seeing, what else is out there, right? For Resistance as far as like merch or extended media, such as books and comics. Then that's where I would come into finding like, oh, hey, look, there is 2 books that are related to Resistance. And I was like, man, I got to pick those up. Instant hit with both of those novels. Which I very much enjoyed. William Dietz did a great job on both of those books. Now, I prefer the second book in that series, Resistance, Fall of, or A Hole in the Sky. Um, but they're both great reads. I definitely recommend them. And now I did not grow up having any of the PlayStation portables, the PSP, which Resistance Retribution was on, and then the PS Vita, which is Resistance Burning Skies home uh,
Mhm.
handheld console. Um, I would, and you'll know why I'm laughing here in a moment, Liam. Uh, so how I would go about watching or experience both of these handheld games would be from very crusty, should I say, YouTube videos, which at the time of me looking up these videos, there were not a lot of videos out there covering the gameplay of the Resistance handheld games, Retribution as well as Burning Skies. Retribution wasn't so bad. It was pretty good to follow. It would later come on when I watched try to look up a video for Resistance Burning Skies. Oh man, Liam knows this story very well.
I
So there was
do.
this guy that I watched, right? And at the time, I don't know if it was just a simple technology issue or just the technology wasn't out there at the time for recording off of at least the PS handhelds at the time, but the person who was recording footage for Resistance Burning Skies, this guy had some kind of camera, right, that he was showing over top of like the screen of his PlayStation Vita. And I kid you not, guys, he stopped middle of the playthrough, right? Saying like, "Oh, hang on, guys, I have a pizza that I need to go get." Right? Proceeds to put down the PS Vita controller in the background. I guess you can hear the door shut or him talking to the pizza delivery guy. Comes back, starts munching on that thing, right? And like it's very loud munching, terrible terrible quality. And then here he goes because there is a action to use the melee or your fire axe in Burning Skies to melee that you have to swipe across the screen to activate that. Well, his greasy pizza fingers slide across the screen. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys," and proceeds to wipe it away, which if anyone's ever dealt with pizza grease without proper cleaning supplies, it just spreads the grease everywhere. So that was my experience trying to look up footage for a dead franchise. However, in more recent times, if you are just now becoming a Resistance fan, there are a lot more higher quality captured videos rather than just putting a camera over top of like the PS Vita or PSP that you're playing. Um, so you're lucky. But and then later on with that, I would, as part of our book club that we had a while back with Liam, myself, and another Resistance fan, we would cover the comics, and that would be my first delve into those comics. However, other than that, I don't really have any type of merch like the action figures that Liam does, or any kind of shirts or anything like that. But maybe one day, Redbubble has some good designs that I might get.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, and again, like I've said earlier, me finding our very niche Resistance fandom community on Discord, I would become friend. I would find one of my best friends, Liam, over here, and we have been best friends for, I think, over 2 years now, or close to that.
It's
I
just,
I, I
it's
would.
been over 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, been over 2 years, and man, we have done so many cool things and made so many damn funny jokes. It's been wild. Um, but other than that, that is kind of my history with Resistance. Liam, would you like to now segue over to your experience and history with the Resistance franchise?
I would love to. So, the earliest memory I have of Resistance is I was 3 when it released in November of 2006, and the earliest memory I have is my brother and I would usually 1v1 each other in Fall of Man. There's a variety of maps that you could choose from, and the one that we would play on mostly was the USS Lexington. And one of my earliest memories, which we had a photo of, which is how I can really remember it, is him and I just playing the game. And I usually accredit Fall of Man for being the first video game I've ever played, and I still give it credit for that. But on a technicality, there's an earlier memory I have where I had this plug and play baby video game thing. It's like this big ass controller that you plug into the TV.
Yes, I believe I had one of those as well. I think I had like a SpongeBob game that
Hmm.
the controller joystick was his nose.
Oh, you had that? You had that?
Yeah.
I think JonTron covered that in his plug and play video from years back.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Man, yeah, but this was like this big thing with like big buttons, and the only thing I can remember of that game is the footage was just of a baby looking at stuff, and it would be like, "What's that noise?" And the baby looks over, and it's just like, I don't know, a bird chirping. But as a kid, I was like, "Can we get to the part where the baby looks at the train, please? I just want to see the train." But yeah, my brother has a memory of watching the trailer for Resistance 2 on TV back in like 2008. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember that. I must have been at like school or whatever, but him and my dad watched it and we're like, "Oh hell yeah." Some good memories came from Resistance 2. A lot of good ones. I was really enthralled with the action of Resistance 2 and the giant Leviathan because I like big monsters. Uh Resistance 3 was kind of interesting because it's like every other Christmas at our old house, my dad would just have a random fucking PS3 game in a stocking. One year was Resistance 3, the next year was Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge. A lot of threes there. A lot of good Christmases getting some video games, I swear. Our first year in the house, my brother got Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga for the Wii. Oh, dude. And there was like no heating in the downstairs where we had the TV, so we're just all bundled up in these big ass weighted blankets. Our hands freezing to the Wii controllers as we're playing Lego games. It was awesome, dude. Good memories. We had mittens on too. We had like the fingerless mittens.
Ah, yes.
We're like hobos down there playing Lego games, dude.
Basically, we're playing Resistance 3 in real life as hobos.
basically. Yeah, my dad had or has, but he might still have it, a PSP. And I think he might have had Retribution too, but I wouldn't know because he took that shit on the submarine with him.
Ah, yes.
And we did not have the Vita, but I kind of have a similar story to you where I was like, I think Alex got done playing Resistance 3 again, and I was like, I wonder if they're coming out with a Resistance 4. So I went to YouTube and I looked it up, and there was footage of Burning Skies, and I was like, ah, sick. They made a sequel, and then years later I find out, nah, it's set between like the first game and Retribution. So yeah, I ended up getting back into Resistance years down the line. It stuck with me for a long time, but what really got me back into it was I looked up the soundtrack for Fall of Man on YouTube, and I was like, this soundtrack is a fucking banger, dude. David Bergode, who had worked with Insomniac Games for a while then on Ratchet and Clank, did the music, and it's really good. I think it's a really great soundtrack that I wish that they could physically release. Even though we have the majority of the songs in game, we're still missing like the cutscene songs and soundtracks.
Right. I mean,
So
oh, sorry, you finish.
so if David still has those tracks, or if Insomniac has them somewhere in a vault, release them. I would love them. I want to listen to them. Release it
Ted
all.
Price. Ted Price, who is now retired, has like the only copy of it, so we have to go and break into his home and hold him hostage until he gives it to us.
This little snippet. It kind of sucks that they didn't release any of the PlayStation anniversary soundtracks on
Mm,
physical. That annoys me because I would love to
yeah.
have the Burning Skies and Retribution and Killzone soundtracks on
Oh yeah.
physical. Because I already have Resistance 3. I'm looking at it right now. The
Right.
CD for the soundtrack. They gotta release the whole soundtrack for Resistance 3 too. Because I know Overlord tried his best to extract some of the tracks, but Resistance 3's files are such a mess.
Right. And for reference, who is Overlord? So if like I'm
Overlord.
sure that
Okay. So, in the Resistance community, Overlord is kind of a big deal. He ported uh, the majority of the models from Resistance 2 to Gary's mod. He uploaded the whole Resistance 2 soundtrack that he got from the files to YouTube. He also managed to upload unreleased tracks from Fall of Man onto YouTube as well. He found them on a website, and he released a couple tracks
Mhm.
from Resistance 3, but not all of them. He also uploaded all the Chimera sounds from Resistance 2 and Fall of Man, voice lines of the different characters in Resistance 2. So he was able to break into Fall of Man and do some things, but some other things are like really encrypted, like the models and stuff, and it's just a mess.
Right. So he is very much the groundwork for a lot of current or modern Resistance projects.
Yes.
Um,
It's
yes.
it's like without him and just being a total boss, access to a lot of sound effects from those games, the music, the models. I don't think we would have them if it weren't for him. I mean, probably at some point down the line we would. I mean, some people were able to port Resistance 3 models to Source Filmmaker years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, he uh he had to leave. I think around the time that you came on the server, because I don't know where he lives, but he had to do a lot of stuff. Like his mom passed away around that time, and I think he had to do like required military service.
I see. I see.
So he just didn't have enough time. So he's like, he didn't know if he was gonna be back or not. But he hasn't returned. He also did some 3D modeling. Like if you look way back, I don't know if it's still on the server because we've changed the channel so much.
Mhm.
You could see some of his 3D modeling. Like he was making like a kick-ass dragon in Blender. It was cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a real G. He's real respected.
to get back on topic, what other things do you have with the Resistance? Um, yeah.
Um, like memories or like items.
Oh, just any. Any just like final thoughts on like your history with Resistance?
Yeah. After after I listened to the soundtrack, I really got into the franchise again. And if your movie or if your video game has a really good soundtrack, there's a good chance that I might get around to watching that movie or playing that game and really liking it. So if you guys got a kick-ass soundtrack, that's where it's at. Like I know that the Transformers movies aren't the best, but Steve Jablonsky did a hell of a job on that soundtrack, dude.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think like all the Resistance games, even Burning Skies, has a pretty good soundtrack. I think the only one that falls flat a little might be Resistance 2.
Right.
It's still great in my opinion, but compared to the other ones, Boris Salchow, who did the soundtrack for Resistance 2, also did Resistance 3, and there's a massive improvement with Resistance 3 soundtrack.
Like now I might be a little bit biased because I also have which you gave me the CD for Resistance 3 soundtrack, but man, it hits hard. Like especially when you're playing the game, man, especially my favorite my I forget what the specific soundtrack is called, but it's the moment when they breach the clouds heading towards the terraformer in the final
Yes.
mission. That one gives me like with that cutscene plus that soundtrack gives me goosebumps every time. But yeah, like fantastic soundtrack. If you guys can ever get a physical copy of it, I definitely encourage you guys because I remember coming back from Connecticut back in August of last year and bumping to that CD on my way back to Virginia.
Yeah, it was I think that track is called Terraformer, or maybe it's Tell Susan I Loved Her. It's either one of those two.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can get this soundtrack on eBay or Amazon for rather cheap, actually. Less than $20, last I've seen. There's definitely a stock of them.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. but yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
After getting to like the soundtracks for the games, I deep dove the lore. I found the Resistance wiki and deep dove that, and I was like, "Holy shit! I didn't know any of this."
Yeah.
I think I like really deep dove it at like the old house too. I was kind of like really interested in it, and some things like shocked me as I was going through it. Like when I saw the words, "Oh, Nathan Hale assassinated U.S. President Noah Grace," I was like, "What? Where is that
Yeah,
at?"
I know it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about too. Because If you guys want to get a little bit more into like the lore other than the games, the books are a treasure trove because that's where that topic is covered in the first book.
Hmm.
um,
Oh,
there's some wild shit that goes on.
the Dietzening.
The Dietzening.
We'll get to the Dietzening in a bit. We'll explain that in a bit. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I deep dove the lore, and I was like 16, turning 17 at the time. Excuse me, at the time, and I really wanted the games. I was like, Ma, because Alex traded them in at fucking GameStop for cheap ass money, along with Medal of Honor Airborne, the bastard. Oh, and Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3. But oh, we gotta
Yeah,
keep
that's
the
gonna be
original greatest hits version of Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Gotta keep that one.
big GameStop employee was like, yeah, I'm gonna give you about like $2.50 for this.
$2.50 for Medal of Honor Airborne. it's like
Yeah, kids,
it's like $15.
don't ever.
I think it's like 15 or $10 on the EA store on PC. Runs really
Right.
well.
I don't know how young the audience is who are watching this, but don't ever turn your games into GameStop, kids. That shit is a scam. You will never get back anything worth your while. You might as well just keep the game.
Either keep that or man, like game exchange stores like that, you're not really gonna get a lot of money. You might as well just
Or
sell them on eBay for like $5 each,
yeah,
$5 $6
but
each.
or if you want to sit on it for a while, I'm sure eventually PS3 games will be just like PS2 games are right now, where they're like, whoo, Nelly,
They're getting up there to like
50,
$30, $20 to $30, dude, for some of
20
them.
20 to $30 for like the stuff that like kind of that's the pricing for the bottom of the barrel stuff nobody wants. But if it's something like really good, like Urban Chaos, Riot Police or whatever,
Ooh.
or even Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which we don't talk about. Uh, dude, those things are like almost like $100 a piece. So like I don't know what PlayStation 3 game is worth that, but it'll be worth that probably one day. So you might as well just sit on that nest egg for a little while.
Yeah,
Um,
right now, I'm kind of going through the process of replacing like the pre-owned GameStop cases where it's like, oh, we don't have the case, we got the GameStop case. I've been in the process of replacing those, and I
yeah.
got two PS2 games I have to do that to: Star Wars Bounty Hunter and Destroy All Humans 2. And
Uh,
trying to find case and instruction only on eBay, it's like, nah, you gotta get the package deal. You gotta get the case, you gotta
yeah.
get the instruction, and you gotta get the game. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I don't want the game. I just need.
Yeah, and the game alone's gonna charge you like the majority of that price right there.
the
Like
last, yeah,
I was just gonna say, yeah, case usually runs you maybe like probably like $10 or less, maybe depending on what it is. But it's the manual puts a few dollars on that tab. But
yes.
oh man, but man, the disc itself, oh yeah, you paying $100 for that thing.
The last time I checked, like, because they were pretty common games, they were almost like greatest hits for the PS2. They're not that expensive. They're like $15 to $20 for like the whole thing.
Right.
Which to some people might sound expensive, but it's like when it comes to collecting games, $20 is $20. It's not that bad.
$20. Well, yeah, and when you're a full fledged adult too, like me, $20 is $20. Okay,
$20 is
it's either
$20.
I
Look, man, this is the bricked up podcast. $20 is $20.
$20 is $20. Brick by brick, it shall be laid. Sorry to get us back on track. Any final thoughts before we kind of move into the meat and
yeah,
potatoes of this podcast?
yeah. What is it? I got the games for my birthday. Had a hell of a time playing them. Uploaded some videos on Instagram of some glitches and stuff that I found, or they're just some wacky things like a steelhead's body in Resistance 2 went up the elevator with me outside of the elevator shaft. I think it's still up on Instagram. You can still find it. But this account, Resistance players, would comment on these videos, and I followed him back, looked through the account, and apparently there was Discord, and you had to like DM him to get access to the Discord. And I was like, "Hey, I was interested in joining the Discord," and he's like, "Ah, all right." It just sent me the link. There's a whole initiation process, like tell us about your favorite Resistance game, da da da.
Right, right.
And then I join the Resistance server. I get introduced to the Resistance players account, Mr. Tigos. Love that man. We
he
love
he
Tigos.
we love T-Goth. Now, Lego Liam here is John Resistance, but this man is Mr. Resistance. Don't get that mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
He is the uh, as much as sometimes he's a little wild, I will say. He is a very much a integral part of the foundation laid for the resistance community, because any little snippet of information, new or old or somewhere on the internet, he's gonna sniff it out, he's gonna keep us informed.
Yes,
And he
sir.
is the biggest cheerleader for hopefully the potential resistance for whenever that'll show up, right guys? So
Yeah.
but I really do I have to say, if Tigos, anything ever happens to Tigos, I like it, a true resistance fan will have perished from this earth. And it will be a dark day for this community, because he really has brought, basically everyone that's on the server together, or has, he's done a very good job of putting us out there, I would say, for kind of like the scattered remains of what the resistance fandom, I guess you could say, is, right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we come from a lot of different walks of life, but somehow we found each other, and that person that made that happen was Tigos, I would say.
Yeah.
So we love you, Tigos.
Because he runs the Resistance Saga Reddit, and that's where you found the Discord, if I remember.
Yes. Yeah, that's I was on Instagram, and I don't know how it came across. I don't know if it was from internet search or just like it showed up on my For You page, but that I met him. Actually, it wasn't Instagram that brought me to the server. It was the Reddit
Yeah,
community, actually.
that's what I said. The Resistance Saga Reddit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's funny enough. I actually met Tigos unbeknownst on Instagram first, and just didn't think of it at the time. And then it was the Resistance Saga Reddit or subreddit that then eventually led me to showing up on the Resistance server, which is wild and funny. Small world, huh?
Yeah, you know what's funny is that he has the Resistance player server. I think he also has another one that's like a not server account. He also has like another Resistance account. I'm pretty sure, and he has a normal account that says Tigos. You want to know how I know this?
Yeah.
Because every now and then, whenever I post like a bunch of Resistance posts on my Instagram, one day it'll just
Uh-huh.
be one Resistance account likes all of them, and then a few days later another Resistance account, and then a few days later his Tigos account. I'm like, ah, all right, yeah.
he is he actually we're just two normal guys, and everyone else that we've met on the resistance server is just T-Goss talking to himself for
I would have to say like this man knows a variety of English. I will say that he's been lied to us. He
um
isn't really Portuguese.
he's just some guy with a server on the internet, or in New York City this whole time. He's been
Man,
playing the long game.
everybody in the server is a wild bunch, man.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
I think that, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
no. You go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think everybody though brings a little bit to the table, because we do
Mm-hmm.
have a host of content creators, people who are just very in depth in the lore, like myself, Liam, and Love Pond. But we also have like speedrunners as well, like a couple of
Mhm.
those guys, which is awesome. And they really do know the ins and outs of the mechanics of Resistance, which is awesome. And I love their speedruns. Sergeant Silent, I love your content if you're listening.
We also have, yeah,
Um,
we got a variety of personalities on that server, and it gets wild sometimes, dude. We have we do
yeah.
have some fanfic writers on there, including myself. And if y'all ever come across a fanfic by Type 2 Hybrid on like fanfic.net or AO3 or whatever, just beware of the content that fanfic holds. It gets it gets wild, dude.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're making the community is making it somewhere when you get some NSW content out there somewhere about it. So we're doing all right, you know?
how, how many results was it on Rule 34? Like 20 or something?
I think it was like 20, yeah. By the way, if anyone the reason we looked up for that, it was for a YouTube
It
poop. I
was for a
promise
YouTube
you.
poop. If you go to my main channel, Legally Abated 03, and you watch my latest Resistance Fall of Man YouTube poop, you will see that there is captured footage that I needed for one joke of just the search bar, but the audio that was used is from an actual video on that fucking website, dude. I absolutely
uh,
hated it, dude. I'm
uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh, uh-huh. That's what they
why am I
all
watching a fucking Ravager ravage this woman?
It's in the name. That's his job. That's why the Chimeran hive mind made him.
These Chimera are bricked up, dude. Man.
unofficial unofficial mascot of the Bricked Up podcast.
It's a bricked up hybrid from
Uh,
Resistance. Do you think we get Zane to draw that?
you know what? Yeah, yeah.
I think he'd
Also,
kill us,
another.
dude.
You know what? We'll pay him. We'll throw him like $5 his way.
Five
Also, yes,
dollars.
fine 10. Gosh. Anyway, that was someone else I wanted to speak on. Zane, we love you. We love all you've done for the memes that have been produced in the more recent
Mm-hmm.
years of Resistance. Thank you so much. We love your work and we appreciate you so much.
I
Um,
still gotta ask him to do that "Me and the Boys" rendition
oh,
of
the
Echo
meme.
Team from Resistance 2.
If you haven't seen some memes, I'm sure Liam will put a couple in the background so you can witness for yourself of the treasure trove that has come out from Zane.
Yeah, if I draw the static image for the podcast, I might throw up like a framed poster of the troll Daedalus. Just might do that. We'll see how it goes.
um. Uh. All right. So, any more final thoughts, or can we move on to the meat and potatoes of today's topic?
We can move on to the meat and the taters, my good friend.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about Resistance Fall of Man, uh, or Man Resistance Fall of, right? You know,
Manfall
uh,
resistance of.
man has OnlyFans and resists it.
Man
Yeah.
OnlyFans? I think the Arkham subreddit would really enjoy that.
I'm sure they would.
Man Ham
So,
Asshole.
know, uh, as I've stated before in kind of my brief history with Resistance Fall of Man, it's by far my favorite. And Liam and I both did a pseudo playthrough together of that. It was not we did not use the co-op system in game. We just kind of played it at the same time. And I have to say that by far it holds up. Being the first game coming out in what 2006 or 2005?
2006.
2006 still looks pretty good. Like graphically, gameplay's good. Sometimes the enemies kind of are a little like AI is kind of wonky, and I know a lot of people. there from that time, like, or not from that time, but like hark on the graphics of it because it's brown and gray, which a lot of games from that time use the brown and gray scale or visual scale for a lot of their games. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I think it works well for the game,
Yeah.
or the atmosphere of the game. So what, like, what can you tell me about like Resistance Fall of Man, Liam, of your experience? Like, did you have like a favorite part of this game or something that's like every time you do it, it's so memorable, or something you always enjoy doing um when
Hmm.
you play Resistance Fall of Man compared to 2 or 3 or any of the other handheld games?
Oh man, damn.
Damn.
There are definitely parts in that game. I mean, it's a mid 2000s game, so the difficulty on it, no matter what, is gonna be quite something.
Right.
But there are a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, it's this part, my favorite.
Oh, my favorite.
Most of the time, I'm just trying to jive to the music. there,
Right.
there are definitely some fun bits here and there that'll just kind of make you laugh. Like, man, I don't know. Cheddar Gorge is a good place full of laughs because of the amount of bullshit that you can do in that level. While you're driving the Lynx with Cartwright in the back shooting the machine gun. And I like how if you park him right next to like one of the bases, he's just trying to shoot up the wall at
Yeah.
at the machine gunner that's that's in the base. And then there's
Or,
like menials all around trying to eat you, and then you're throwing air fuel grenades into the base trying to kill everybody in the
yeah,
upper floor while you're wielding an auger trying to blast everybody.
through the floor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think some of my favorite quotes are from Cheddar Gorge from Cartwright, where you drive by this little shed and he's like, you know, this shed makes me miss the small things in life, like women, or
Oh,
or yeah, like he just says some like off-brand shit, or fucking
I used to bring
actually, fun fact. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I used to bring a lot of women into sheds back before the war.
Uh, Back before the war, good thing I only got one daughter to pay for child support. You know,
Don't got a wife
uh,
anymore.
don't go to the
Shame
wife for.
that.
But yes, Cheddar Gorge probably has to be one of my favorite missions in the entire game because it's just so fucking fun. They give you like, yeah, well, it's relatively a limited sized map, but it's so much fun. The space that you're given is so much fun. And dude, whoever designed it to have the fucking cool ass jumps throughout that mission,
Mm-hmm.
fucking pay that man for life. That shit was so much fun and kind of like doing some of the dumbest shit. Like I've done some of the dumbest shit and have gotten the links stuck in the most random ass spots too because of a jump or something like that. And I've also gotten on the map with that thing too. So I have to commend the person who did that. Um, Also, fun fact, everyone: Cheddar Gorge is in fact where the cheddar cheese that we now enjoy today was created. So, fun fact for the day, everybody.
Is that true?
This is true.
Oh. Hell, you know they made cheddar cheese here.
Shit. Sorry, I only like Wimsleydale.
Hell, they're stealing our cheese. We need to stop them.
those bastard chimera.
Let's go. We have to go stop them from taking our cheese. got
Fucking.
got got fucking
Meanwhile,
you got fucking Wallace in like the netted Vietnam helmet, and he's like, Gromit,
yeah.
let those trees start speaking Chimera.
Fucking Grayson's there. It's like, what's happening, bro? Like, fucking fucking apes. Where are they taking all our women? Fuck the women, Grayson. Where's the goddamn cheddar?
Where's the goddamn cheese, Grayson?
Grayson, we have priorities here.
It's not a conversion center where they're turning women into the boilers. You like look down, and it's just like blocks of cheese being turned into the boilers. It's like Bloody hell. That's what they do with
or,
all cheese.
or it's the fucking Iceland mission from Resistance 2 where Hale's looking down at all the fucking preserved like infected bodies or whatever, and he's like, there's thousands of them. And they're just it's replaced with a bunch of fucking cheddar cheese. It's like there's thousands of wheels of cheese here. My
there's,
God.
there's nothing more we can do for the cheese.
You just you just hear Warner crying over the mic.
No! Fuck!
Fuck!
Instead of Hawthorne dying, they're just watching Daedalus split apart like a giant wheel of cheese. And they're like, he ruined it! Damn it! Fuck!
That was the last specimen of blue cheese that we had on Earth. God damn it!
No, we'll always have blue cheese, because that's moldy shit. That was authentic Gouda that he split in half, my man.
My God. Um, but yeah, anything else that you can think of that was very memorable for you with Resistance Fall of Man?
Oh man, memorable. Aside from like the multiplayer maps that Alex and I played on, that was pretty memorable. The stupid ass button that lets your hybrid overheat. Why was that a fucking feature? And I know why. I know why it was. I just remembered. It's to like make your character a bit more powerful, gives you a little oomph, but like the consequences that you take damage over time.
Right. I think you can also see characters through walls, I believe, with that ability as well.
Yes, I
Or
believe
or
so.
detect them somehow. Um by the way, I have only a very minute knowledge of the multiplayer maps because I believe this was a time before both Liam and I were old enough to really have like internet access for Resistance. So like
Or even know how
anything
to
we talk
play the
about,
fucking games.
yeah. So if anybody has any kind of cool, wild stories about the multiplayer or its mechanics, comment that down below because we'd love to hear your stories.
If we have any of the
But
members for the Resistance server on the podcast, they could tell us. Like the older
oh,
fans.
oh yeah, that would be a great time.
Man. Yeah. Um aside from memories, I just got a lot of opinions on the game.
well,
If you want to go over that, we can go through one by one.
well, I would like to just real quickly talk about one of my favorite things to do in Resistance, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of my favorite things to do with Resistance Fall of Man. So you have a lot of human allies throughout several missions throughout this game. One of my all-time favorite things to do was to see how many of these soldiers I could get to the end of those levels and protect them. So like I would keep track of how many people I would be able to save. I think like my top number for saving people for like say the very first mission, right? I think I was able to save 7 before you reach that house at the end of like the lane. When you first drop into Manchester, I think I got like 12 or 13 guys all together. Um, those are the most memorable ones. But yeah, doing what I could to save my buddies or allies in that game was such a fun little thing to do, challenge to do for myself. And I think I've talked to a couple different resistant members where that was also a priority that they did. But honestly, doing that challenge at the Manchester level during the church where all the leapers come down, if you can save more than one soldier from that scene, good on you, because I've only ever been able to save one guy out of that entire group. But I was able to get at least 2 guys. All actually, funny enough, the what one guy that I saved from that church or that church level against the leapers made it all the way up to where you fight the 2 howlers in that little courtyard, right? And funny enough, they kind of go into that back alley to where one of they spawn and they just kind of stay static there because they're like, damn, I didn't think we gonna make it this far. So
He's like,
yeah, that was
damn,
one of
that's
my
a minefield out there. Good luck with that. I'm staying
good,
here.
good luck with that, white boy. Uh, well, I mean
Wait,
they're
you're
all
white too.
I'm 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 British.
How British is different.
Uh, it's a different. I'm different flavor vanilla.
Get on, you
Um,
yank.
good on you, Yank. Have fun. Um, we'll regroup with Arrow 4. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into opinions of Resistance
Oh,
Fall of Man.
opinions.
Opinions.
It's great. All right, Resistance 2. No,
And you just hear, and you just have the cut scene where it's like, dun, it's like the end credits of Resistance Fall of Man playing. Dun, 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 dun.
Man, like I said, the music's great. Gameplay is a little clunky because it's 2006 FPS shooter. Before they were all like, ah, yes, the Call of Duty shooting mechanics is the end all be all for shooting mechanics.
It would resistance wouldn't fall prey to that until Resistance
Resistance
2,
3.
where they were
No, Resistance 3. Resistance 2 kept the same control style, I swear.
uh-huh, okay, whatever, fanboy of
Hey,
Resistance 2.
well, you know what?
What?
When I had to change circle from crouch to R3 crouch in Resistance 2, that's when I knew the control scheme was fucked up still.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm sorry that Resistance tried to be Call of Duty Shooter Man.
Well,
You
you know
know,
what? I wanted to be Call of Duty Shooter Man
you wanted to be Call of Duty Shooter
Because
Man.
the Resistance control
You're
scheme is stupid.
well, you know what? You're not a real Resistance fan. Go back to the goddamn Dark
It's
Ages.
fucking stupid, man. It's stupid.
It's stupid.
Yeah, that was around the
Anyway,
time when like everybody was like, we're gonna do our own control scheme," and then Call of Duty was like, fuck you. We perfected it."
okay. Okay, well, you know what? Resistance has its own clunkiness with having to press on and off the aim down sight. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, I don't know why they have to sacrifice crouch and aim down sight controls. That is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. In Fall of Man, it went from just tap the button and you're aiming down sights, tap it again and you're no longer. And then with crouch, you have to hold down the fucking button.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's quite ass backwards. I don't understand it.
And then in Resistance 2, they changed it, which is better. But yeah, it was for anybody wondering, if you ever played the game Medal of Honor Rising Sun, that whole control scheme is fucked. How could you ever play a video game like that? And thank God that they allowed you to change the controls in that game. In Medal of Honor Airborne on the PS3, nope, can't change the controls at all. They're not terrible, I will say, but it's like, uh, uh,
But yeah, continue with your opinions on
yeah.
Resistance Fall of Man.
Like you said, graphics hold up pretty well. Even the particle effects are pretty good for 2006. Like the fire and the bullets, even the ricochet mechanics from the hailstorm are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Mo- Despite the models for the Chimera are rather interesting. They're quite smooth compared to like Resistance 2 and Resistance 3. They're kind of like smooth babies, which is why like
Right.
if you see them in the light, they're very shiny, and that's why like fun fact, when I was a kid, I used to call them the Jellymen because they kind of
The
looked like
Jellyman,
because they were shiny and kind of looked like jelly in the shiny light. So
shiny and
I was like,
chrome.
oh yes, the Jellyman. I want to keep that. Like, if I ever write a Resistance book, like William Dietz had stakes for like a slur for the Chimera. I would like to just write
Oh
a
yeah.
character like a young kid, just use the word Jellyman for the Chimera.
There were jellymen out in the woods. What are you talking about, honey?
No,
Jellymen.
there's Jellyman out there. The fuck are you talking about? Bring me my
Wait a
Winchester.
minute. There.
Oh
Bring
dear
me my
lord.
Winchester.
It's like giant, like Smucker's grape jelly that's coming after them. Oh my god, it do be Jelly Man! Quickly, we need to run, and then go in the backyard. It's like, oh my god, Mole Man!
Mole Man, I knew it. God damn it. The Schmucker's jelly and Mole Man were working together the whole damn time.
Can you imagine like they reboot Mountain the shit there was a show called Mountain Monsters. It got a couple of
Oh
memes
yeah,
recently.
yeah.
And it'd be like, there's jellymen out there, I swear. They're in the mountains. Gets pulled under
I
by
have
a giant can of jelly or jarred jelly.
they're they're interviewing this guy, right? And they step aside and they're like, I have no reason not to believe this guy's reports. I think he's trustworthy. I could tell it because he had Smucker's jelly all around his mouth. He must have been attacked recently.
The Smucker's jelly tried to suffocate him, tried to sit on him.
Sexual have babies, have sex with him.
Oh my god, it reminds me of there's this guy with a YouTube channel where his most popular video is called "My Raven is a douche," and he's like, "I had my Raven, he's a douchebag," you know. And he has one video where he's like, my property got like attacked by a dog man, and the dog man jumped from my car, and then he's got another one where he's like out in the wilderness holding a gun with like a camera on a tripod, and he's like, it's like last night I was attacked by a female Sasquatch. She tried giving me
Oh
she
yeah.
tried giving me a knobber. She tried jerking the weed.
Ripped off my pants.
Oh my
Oh my god.
the dog man tried to jerk me off, I swear.
So yeah, back on track now.
got a couple of dog men of resistance follow man with the howlers, dude.
Yeah. Um so yeah, graphically, very shiny and chrome.
It is shiny, yeah.
How do you think the story holds up for Resistance Fall of Man? Not only just like not as just like the first entry kind of introducing the world and whatnot, but also just as a game itself. Like does it flow well? Does it make sense to you? Was it hard to understand any of the concepts that were going on in the game?
For that, I have one more compliment. When it comes to the mechanics, the I don't think anything will ever surpass like the physics engine for Fear, but Fall of Man had a pretty good physics engine, and like with the environmental hazards, breakable
Mm-hmm.
glass, how the grenades functioned,
Mm-hmm.
the ricochet bullets I brought up earlier from the hailstorm were really good. The ion charger and the bouncing like arcs of electricity,
Mm-hmm.
we never got anything like that again in any of the following Resistance games. And
And one other thing they also had a cut grappling hook that they were going to
yes,
release as well.
they had a cut
Um,
grappling hook.
but
Yeah. But story, just like isolated, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's a pretty good story. Could it I'm actually quite shocked that they did all they did in like chronologically in the story, not to confuse anyone. Like all the characters accomplished what they did in the story in like a matter of like 4 days, because the story begins on July 11th and then it ends on July
mhm,
14th, with the post-credit scene being on like the 15th.
mhm.
So in like 4 days, they accomplished a lot. Like one American with whatever remained of the British resistance managed to mostly liberate the UK, or at least start the liberation in 4 days. Four
It,
days.
that is something as like before, like I kind of before you and I really delved into the deeper lore and explanation of Hale's character in general. Um, it was very unbelievable to me, even as a kid. I'm like, so this bald guy, basically one man army, with yes, the help of the British resistance, were able to defeat a force that most of Europe, millions of people, could not stop. You know, now there is a behind the scenes story that's going on. If you're able to, if you look close enough at the environmental storytelling, you'll be
Hmm.
able to figure out that Hale really wasn't like, Hale probably would have died at some point during those 4 days if it were not for Serpa's intervention. Because if you go throughout the levels, you'll find these Black Ops soldiers, right? At the time that they were called. Um, these are members of the Serpa. And if you listen to their radio chatter that's going on in the background, you can actually figure out that they were basically diverting Chimeran forces so that Hale could reach his objectives or that he was setting out to. However, I
Hmm.
don't think it, because I think the last radio chatter from the Black Ops units that you can find outside on the outskirts of London. I think they were like, "Oh, we don't know. Like, guys, listen, Grayskin cannot go into the goddamn tower because we don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
I
So
think
we
they.
gotta pick his ass up."
I think you can find some dead British guys in the tower, but I don't remember if there were any dead Serba Black Ops in the tower. I think there
I
might
think
have
there may
been.
have been. Yeah, I think there may have been.
Yeah,
Um,
the whole time they're also like, not only are they trying to help you in the background, but they're also studying you just to see how
mhm.
Hale acts in the field.
Right.
Because
Which is. Oh,
because
sorry. Go ahead.
because Hale is the only other person who has been inoculated with pure chimera DNA, and on top of also getting the virus at the beginning of the game, it's like, we should really keep an eye on this guy.
I could only imagine the report that they sent back to like Dr. Malakoff and oh, what's the
Blake.
Blake? They were like, okay, so remember how we gave super AIDS to this guy? Well, he's got super duper AIDS now, and we don't know what's gonna happen. And like Malakoff's like, my God. It's like Blake's like, hey, do you know what's gonna happen? And Malakoff's like, yes, that is a good question.
That is a good question.
um, but I have to commend Insomniac to giving those, like, it's not spoken, but if it's there for the very observant players, right? In which you and I didn't discover that until our recent playthrough of Resistance Fall of Man, which
Well,
to this day,
I knew that there were dead
oh,
Black Ops soldiers. I just didn't know what they were talking about because Grayskin sounds
that's what I meant.
very similar to the Greyjacks, which are
Mm-hmm.
the older Linky hybrids that you encounter when you're in I think it was Southern Command. I don't remember.
I believe so.
It's where they're
Yes.
keeping the Angel, but
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of confused the two, and then I realized like way later, like, oh, Grayskin is just the code name for Hale.
I also thought they were just simply there trying to capture and test out, like capture specimens for their research, but also using those what is it, X series weapons that like the Hailstorm and the Sapper are part
I think it's
of?
like
Aren't they?
the XR dash da 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 whatever number they throw on there.
Oh, okay, yeah, whatever that, the basically the reverse engineered or experimental weapons. Like I thought that the UK was basically a testing ground for them for Serpa. I had no idea that the Black Ops were actually there to somewhat study and support Hale
Hmm.
in the background, which was a very interesting thing that I did not find out until our recent playthrough of Resistance Fall of Man, which I have to commend, like I said earlier, I have to commend Insomniac for just putting that little detail in there, which explains the story a lot better and makes the story more believable as well. Um, because rounding back to the, yeah, this entire thing happened within 4 days. Um, is a very interesting kind of like an almost unbelievable story in my opinion. But I do have to, you do have to like put in the factors of like, okay, Hale wasn't actually there doing it by himself. Both Serpa agents as well as like the British resistance were running interference for Hale to get a lot of these opportunities and supporting him as well. But Hale also does have, is somewhat inoculate to the Chimeran virus, you know. So he also has the some of the abilities of the hybrids, like with this healing factor, is enhanced. I think like um I guess I wouldn't say strength, but probably speed and reaction time.
Hmm.
Uh
And
so
his abilities with the
yeah,
Far Eye are also something of note.
right, right. Because the using the fire eye doesn't actually slow down. It's just a standard sniper rifle, but Hale's ability to slow down time is his reaction time with from
Yeah.
enhanced by the Chimeran virus. Just for anybody's didn't know that. Um, but yeah, so the story like sometimes is a little unbelievable, but through the narrations of Rachel Parker explaining the background, but also the current situations, as well as the environmental storytelling and booklets that you find throughout the levels and stuff like that, it's a pretty believable and interesting story and very exciting that honestly to this day nothing compares to it in my opinion, or at least scratches that itch. Um, but yeah, continue if you have any other thoughts.
Yeah, the little intel documents that you pick up that expand the universe during that time, there wasn't a whole lot of lore behind it. Um, Whatever they uploaded through like the trailers and on the website and in the game for like information on this alternate timeline is was just basically all you had. And it's rather interesting because if you go diving into the timeline of Resistance, it doesn't immediately start with it's an alien invasion. No, there's like more to it. Like the point of divergence actually starts with the Spanish American War never happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this happened in real life too. President William McKinley sent an ultimatum to the King of Spain, basically saying, if you let Cuba go free, no war. If you refuse, there's gonna be war. And then the King of Spain was like, war it is then. And then we basically just destroyed the Spanish Empire.
Interesting. I
Yeah,
think
to be fair, the Spanish Empire was on a decline at the time anyway. We just basically capped it in the knees and was like, you're done.
right. And I think also World War One didn't happen, right? Or was it World War Two? Well, World War Two
uh,
wouldn't have happened because obviously they're dealing with the Chimera.
yeah, World War One is interesting. Instead of Archduke Franz Ferdinand getting shot, it actually started with France and Britain invading German Togoland.
Mm,
So,
gotcha.
France and Britain are the aggressors in this timeline. The uh, the Entente is just about the same. France, the UK, Russia, Italy, and Japan. And the Central Powers are the same with Germany, Austria Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. The United States never joins because after the Spanish American War was avoided, an isolationist mentality settled in, and there's usually a Republican thing, so the Republicans had a bit more of an influence, I would guess.
Hmm.
And even though Woodrow Wilson's like, maybe we should join the war, they're like, no, we're not going to join the war. So the U.S. never joins the war. And World War One ends in 19... Well, technically, it officially ends in 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles.
Right.
So the Entente does win. Russia, during the World War, still had the November Revolution, except here, after Nicholas abdicated, Duke Alexander, took over and became Tsar. Unlike in real life, where he
Mhm.
was like, "Nah, I don't want to be the Tsar. That's a bad idea." Here, he took over and was like, "I'm going to brutally kill every single communist revolutionary," and he did. He went on like a Stalinist rampage and just killed any revolutionary and any dissident. So that was brutally crushed. Lenin went to a gulag of sorts in Siberia, and Russia became very isolationist.
Mhm.
After some French spies were discovered, and they were executed. This is like years later down the line. So they were like, ah, yes, the Western democracies of Europe are trying to tear down my empire. We have to build a wall. So they build the Red
And
Curtain. And meanwhile, Europe is actually doing pretty good after the war. They set up something called the European Trade Organization, which is basically this universe's very early version of the European Union. And almost like every European country is part of it, including Germany,
right.
who's able to economically recover much gracefully. And because of their prosperity under their new democratic regime, the Nazis never gain a foothold, like ever.
Mm, gotcha.
So they just die. And now the issue is Mussolini. This is something I have brought up in past conversations. Mussolini is just absent from this timeline. You know, the father of fascism. He's just not here. You'd think that
Uh,
he should be here, but he's just not.
and in this universe, that art university accepted Adolf into their university, so he just never got mad. And so,
Nah, he was still kicked out of art school as far as I'm concerned.
gotcha. So yeah,
So there's that. The U.S. is
and by
still. I'm not done. I'm not
I
done
was
yet.
just gonna say, by the way, in the very very deep woods of Siberia, the Chimeran virus is growing
Oh yes,
um, during these time events because it was
the
this is
tongue,
actually based on a real meteorite impact that happened
the
and
tongue,
flattened.
the Tunguska event of 1908, which Ghostbusters got very wrong by saying 1909.
Oh, 1909. But for listeners, this is an actual event that happened.
It did happen.
Um, and it was actually heard, I think, from all the way in St.
Oh,
Petersburg when it hit.
it had a huge
Uh,
effect on like the world's weather for a while.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Um, but just
An impact like that would have a huge effect. Like barometers went wild in like the UK, and they're like, "The fuck just happened?"
right, and basically it was so large. Now they don't know exactly how specifically if it was like an airburst explosion or what exactly, but it flattened trees for 100 miles in every direction of the rate the diameter from the impact site. That's how hard this thing
Yeah.
hit.
Most of the
Um,
most of the theories are that it was a meteorite that struck Siberia.
right. But because of at the time in real world life, um, scientists, because of like or the political landscape as well as just also the treacherous terrain that Siberia is, uh, it wouldn't be until literally 20 years later after the impact happened that they were finally able to get out there and investigate what actually happened. Um, but yeah, but
Yeah.
in this universe, the Chimeran virus was aboard that and slowly started to
So yeah,
infest
the chimera,
Russia.
the chimera's invasion of Earth isn't like your typical alien invasion. It starts off with a virus. It released an airborne virus, which in the Resistance 3 prologue cutscene, you know, an old man eating the soup ate up the
So,
airborne virus and became a menial. Basically, the menials have been the earliest forms of the chimera on Earth, aside from the
mm-hmm.
pure chimera millions of years ago.
Years ago, yeah. Um,
And then it
so
just
yeah,
yeah, it just spread throughout Russia, and they've been covertly spreading since then. And just
yeah.
like you said, 20 years later, they finally sent people out to like research the crash site, and that still happened here in this timeline. But instead of finding a crash site, the team went missing, and then they're like, "Ah, that's suspicious." And then they sent the military out there. Were like, "Ah, aliens,
Aliens,
mole."
mole men. We can't let anybody know about our mole man infestation, or they're not gonna think we're cool.
John Lennon is like,
But basically, long story short, guys, don't eat soup because you'll turn into a
don't eat
monster.
soup.
Where
Do
where are you?
not eat babushka soup.
Do not eat babushka soup. It's bad.
Otherwise, you'll end up
um,
like the creatures in fucking Metro.
exactly. Okay, okay. Kind of reeling back from the deep dive in the lore and stuff like that. Let's get back to resist the focus on Resistance Fall of Man. So we've covered the story a little bit and your likes and dislikes. What about the
Oh,
characters? Like, oh, sorry.
this
Did you
is
have
something
one
I
final point?
gotta. There's something I gotta bring up before we talk about the characters. Even a lot of the promotional material for Fall of Man dealt with the Russians, and I think that might have been misleading because yeah, while the Chimera started off in Russia, and much of the lore
Hmm.
is basically like in 1949 the Chimera broke through the Red Curtain and invaded all of Europe swiftly and quickly, mind you. Like they
Hmm.
basically blitzkrieg their way over all of Europe in a matter of months.
See, that's where the timeline differs. The Chimera were the first to develop methamphetamines,
Yes.
and so that's why they were able
I
to steamroll
thought you were about to say
over all.
blitzkrieg. I thought you were about to say blitzkrieg, not methamphetamine.
The German scientists were like, "Damn it, they stole our idea."
So yeah, as you could tell, as it was slightly brought up, World War II never happens. The Nazis don't rise. Mussolini is in the Phantom Zone, and
Uh,
the Japanese are doing whatever the fuck they're doing because they don't get a single piece of lore except for in Resistance 3 where they're fighting a terraformer in like what was it Nagoya?
uh, it's like 100-man team gets into a terraformer and tries to,
It
I
takes
guess,
it
down
down.
it.
Hell,
Takes
or
it down.
they might just kamikaze it. Fucking
Yeah, yeah, probably.
that's like the likelier thing that would have happened. But yeah, the main three Axis power members don't really get a whole lot, which is surprising because they would have very much of a political effect on the world around that time. So things like this,
Right.
the Second Sino-Japanese War, unknown, we don't know. Uh, China may or may not be the republic under the Kuomintang. We don't know what Japan's doing. The what was it? There was almost like a rebellion in 1936 in Japan, like a
Right.
monarchist rebellion that basically wanted to like get. I'm not joking. This was real. It was like because the military was exerting the power over the government, and then there was one general who
Right.
was like, "This is cringe. The emperor should have ultimate power," and did like a rebellion for a bit, and then they're like, "Hey, that's not fun," and then the rebellion just stopped.
So you're basically, you know what's crazy? I just had this thought. It's like, the world in like a perfect world. It's like, dude, we're solving our differences. We're making sure genocide and racism aren't a thing. The world is going to be a great place here in our modern times. And the Chimera were like, we can't have that now. And then you just see fucking, it's like the crab meme as the Chimera and armor march. It's just like we're gonna put a stop to this world peace.
Oh my god, could you imagine? I think Belarus and Ukraine are independent, but if they're not, could you imagine just like the Polish people by the Red Curtain? And they're like, ah, peace in Europe, and then just hear an ultimate like orc war behind the fucking wall. War.
And they just snap their fingers like, damn, we knew we had it too good for too long.
Damn it. I could just imagine. I could just imagine the Polish people being like, "We had a country for 30 years, and look what happened."
Immediately steamrolled by the fucking Chimera.
So yeah.
Um, let's talk about characters. Now we don't have we.
Hold on. Before we do that, I have to pee.
Oh, okay, leave
Okay.
that in the podcast. They gotta hear about it.
I'll
Piss on the
I'll
stream.
be right back. Oh, piss on the street. All right, headphones coming off.
Before we continue, I gotta
Hold
show
on,
you
headphones
something.
aren't on yet. Yes.
Before we continue, this is a cake order Gina made today.
Okay. I'll keep this in the
If it'll
show.
load. Oh yeah.
Happy birthday, Jeremy from family. Oh, that's adorable. Look at all those Transformers.
Yeah, but they did Bumblebee dirty because he didn't have a card with him.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Watch. Jeremy, his favorite Autobots, Bumblebee.
Look at that Megatron. That's a kick-ass Megatron. I love
Yeah,
Megatron.
it is a kick at. I'm surprised they actually did like original character designs for these guys. I thought they would
Yeah,
do like some more modern Michael Bay shit or
they're
something.
really shiny. Like, look at Starscream and Megatron. They're shiny.
Shiny and chrome.
Shiny and chrome.
Okay,
Speaking of
let's.
speaking of
Oh, sorry, go
family,
ahead.
yeah, sorry to hear that your grandmother passed away, Philip.
Oh, it's okay, buddy. I wasn't like super close with
Mm,
my grandmother and stuff, but like I'm still. I guess whenever I find out about when the funeral's gonna be, I'm gonna, you know,
show
uh,
up.
show up. But I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna be kind of stressed out about my family being there. But
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say
yeah.
like, mm,
Yeah. Well, I'll cross that bridge when it gets there. But Best Buy's giving me a week off though, so I have all week off.
nice.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah,
for
I got a great grandmother left, and she's getting up there, and her health is
declining.
oh, it's kicking her ass, but she's like,
Uh, but I appreciate the
mm,
sentiment and everything.
yeah,
But yeah,
she's she's going she's just riding the waves right now. I know she's got her issues, but she's still kicking. She's still going
right.
on. We'll see. Cause I've been thinking about her, right now, and I'm like, she's having a lot of issues. She might be on her last legs. It could be this year that she passes away. And part of me's like, I haven't really seen her a lot lately, but part of me hopes that she's able to make it just a little bit longer.
Right. Of course.
Man. But yeah, characters.
Yeah. Characters.
Did you see
Is a
the
record.
yeah, we're still recording. Did you
Okay.
see, I don't know if you've been on the server lately, but somebody was posting a couple videos pertaining to like the first book, and what the thumbnail said, Nathan Hale's an actual character now. Yeah,
Yeah.
for those who don't know, Nathan Hale is the main protagonist of the first two Resistance games, and in the first game, Fall of Man, he's more of a silent protagonist who only talks in the cutscenes. And then Resistance 2, he has dialogue during gameplay, but only like sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Mm-hmm.
We in Fall of Man, we really don't have like a vast character or cast of characters. We literally have what, three? Three characters,
We have.
maybe, other than
Yeah,
like
we have like
one off
three main dudes, and then Captain Winners.
oh yeah, I forgot about Captain Winters. Dinkelberg.
Based on the in real life Captain Winners, and most people probably know him from Band of Brothers.
Yes. Yeah, basically he actually got to be what he wanted to be in real life, isn't that right? Because like he wanted to be a ranger, wasn't that correct? Captain Winters.
I don't know. Well,
Because I think we went into like a deep dive about Captain Winter's like character or something like that at one point. And I think that he wanted to join the Ranger Battalion at some point.
he was part of the
So
air.
in this,
He was part of the airborne in real life, wasn't he?
yes, he was part of the 101st Airborne
Hell
Division.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Uh, but I think he wanted to. I know that he did want to go and do missions on the Pacific theater. At the end of the European front.
Mm.
Uh, but I swear to God, we read something one time talking about like he wanted to be part of the Ranger Battalion, or he was potentially supposed to be part of the Ranger Battalion, but then got diverted or something happened and he became an airborne unit.
I'll have to look
But
into that.
yeah, like I'm sure you'll put up a little fact check something on screen at this point. But anyway. Yeah, so we have like basically four characters, and there's like a couple maybe like minor British soldiers that like we get the names of here and there, but they really aren't important to the story. Um, so yeah, what do you think of like the few characters that we do get in this game?
Yeah,
What are your opinions?
for Hale, he's not like the, and I've been thinking about it a lot. He's not the greatest video game protagonist. Like he's not the Master Chief or Sam Fisher or Ryu Hayabusa, just to throw out some in there from my childhood. Um,
Hmm.
I think he serves his purpose well. Silent protagonists at the time were kind of common. Gordon Freeman being the most popular, along with
Hmm.
Shell from Portal. So having a silent protagonist isn't terrible. Sometimes if it's like the trope where it's like he goes to talk and you have a character that's like, allow me to do the talking, blah blah blah. It gets kind of annoying there, but
Yeah.
Hale isn't like that. He, like I said, he talks in the cutscenes, but when you go into Hale's background, like when he's in boot camp or even stuff before that, he has a very interesting history of being very lucky in
Hmm.
instances where a lot of people around him aren't. Like, there's a lot of death around him in his past. Like, I think he was in a. There was a cave that collapsed, and he managed to, like, get to safety, but he stayed behind to save some people, and he was, like, thanked. And then when he went to boot camp, um, something happened during a shooting exercise and people got hurt, but Hale was the only one who like lived or didn't get wounded. Um,
Um,
there
and then through his like younger years too, I think he was in a car accident with his family, and his family died, and he I think
no
was the
his
only.
no his family
Oh,
died.
they were like from the flu.
They
That's right.
died. They died from the influenza. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. I don't know where I got that fucking car accident out of my ass, but still, lucky that he survived the
He
influenza.
survived that. Yeah. Um.
See, listen, he that was the that's how he was able to survive the injection of the pure chimeran strain is because he was an
Oh
influenza
my god.
survivor.
You know what? That might actually add on to it because in the proj. So for those who might not know, as part of the marketing for Resistance 2, there was a website called like Project Abraham, and it was like it was an ARG, and there was a handful of characters, among them Nathan Hale and Joseph Capelli, that you could decide their fates. Like they could be inoculated with the Chimeran virus, or they could be spared. I know that one of them was spared, and the others were inoculated.
Mhm.
And the only one that was inoculated and survived the virus was Joseph Capelli. The side effects being that his anger was like doubled. He was very quick to anger. Didn't have a great temper. A lot of the other ones suffered like brutal mutations and other ill side effects. Like there was one guy whose like body started heating up a lot, and he tore into his organs to like cool
Mhm.
his body. And there was
Or
one guy who had like a mutated face and had all these fangs coming out of his face.
yeah, and he fucking ripped apart like some of the fucking doctors who were working on him and shit.
Mm.
And gosh, I can only imagine some of the other horrible creations, especially the one that was like they were holding back the the operating room doors or whatever, trying to hold back what was ever behind the doors. Yeah, man. So it was crazy.
Capelli had the while his outburst was violent, I would be like Dr. Malakoff and be like, "That is the only success that we've actually had." Somebody got
D-
wounded or killed, I'm pretty sure, but it's like, yes, he's the only one who hasn't mutated and died. That's a
also,
success in my book.
also, Hale got like the least of ill side effects. He got bad dreams. Like that.
Oh shit,
That's all
man.
he suffered.
Hey, well, Hale didn't even get the virus. They're like, what if we just put in this like pure chimera
Oh, the
strain inside Hale? And then he got visions of the war happening in Europe because at that time the U.S. was suppressing any and all information of the war,
yeah.
so they didn't know shit.
Bas-
Despite the Daedalus comic being like, yes, we know, what they didn't. They didn't know
Yeah.
shit. But yeah, Hale was inoculated. He had dark visions of what was happening in Europe and probably of the hive mind itself. And that
Yeah, I think those
and then he just fucking passed out, dude.
yeah. But he became a survivor and was like then being shipped out apart with whoever else survived Project Abraham, basically off to the European front or
Yeah.
York opera
The
or
only
opera. What was that operation called? Deliverance.
I think it was Deliverance.
Yeah.
The only ones not shown in the ARG that we see in Resistance 2 was Daedalus, aka Jordan Shepard, who also got inoculated with the pure Chimera DNA. Um, Benjamin Warner and Aaron Hawthorne. They were not shown, but they were also part of Project Abraham.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting how they put Hawthorne and Warner in the Resistance 2, but didn't have them in the ARG. But Capelli made
Right.
it.
Capelli, and he got his own comic book
Capelli
or
did.
featured on a.
Yeah, Capelli and Warner got to be in the main comics from Mike, and but not Hawthorne.
Off,
He only gets mentioned in a book.
yeah. Um. Anyway, roping back to
Yeah,
the other couple characters that we have in Resistance: Fall of Man. We have Cartwright and
Parker.
Parker. Oh my god, I don't know
Parker.
why I forgot her name. Parker. Um, what's your opinions on those two characters?
Cartwright is he's rather interesting. I think I think my opinion of him is getting soured because there's some guy on the Resistance server who's thirsting over Cartwright. Dude,
Uh,
I don't know, man. He's like he's cute and everything, and I'm like, no.
um,
he's a
Cartwright.
he's a redhead, so if they ever make a movie, you know that they're gonna race swap him to a black guy.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so Cartwright, yeah. I personally think the Cartwright is a little bit of a comic relief just in a couple moments.
Oh,
I wouldn't say it.
and Retribution definitely is a comic relief character, a little bit.
Yeah.
Aside from
Um,
Grayson, the main character, who is also the comic relief. Oh, I'm James
r-
Grayson, bitches.
I'm James Grayson, bitches. Uh, I don't actually, now that I think about it, like he's just kind of there in
Yeah,
a lot of ways. Like I
he's
don't think he's just like a he's just kind of a sidekick for Hale sometimes. I think
he's
like in
your
Cheddar Gore, like
he's your invincible buddy. A buddy. If this was any other game, it would be like protect him at all costs, or like if it doesn't tell
right.
you that, and then it's like, oh, he died. You have to restart from a checkpoint, like in Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and I'm like, could
Yeah,
you please not?
yeah.
Fucking
Um, yeah, because he doesn't really add much to the story as like a narrator like Parker
like
is.
Parker, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
his main relevance in this series is that he ends up like he's in Retribution. He's also kind of your buddy there for a little bit, but
yeah.
not bad for a frog.
Or
But
Frog.
the only other time he shows back up is Resistance 3 on the radio, where he's now a general leading like the bulk of the resistance
And the operation to free mainland Europe from the Chimeran virus
to free it
forces
again from the
again.
Chimera.
But yeah, like by the way, for anyone who has either not seen Resistance at all, he is a Royal Marine of the British forces, by the way. So that's he stands out in that aspect. But really, again, like he doesn't add a lot to like the story or lore that is going on. He is just more of like sometimes a little bit of a tiny bit of comic relief, but also just kind of like your buddy to like kind of not really escort you through, but just like be there with you um throughout a couple of missions. Yeah. And really, like the only other tidbit that we get from is that the in game cutscene where his daughter was found among the survivors of the Chimeran, or of when they were cleaning up Great Britain.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about Parker. Parker
Oh,
is
she
the main
fine.
narrator, but she is the, I would say she's the poster girl, or pinup girl for the
Oh yeah,
Resistance
she is. Like,
community.
if this was the Clone Wars, they'd have her up on LAATs. I swear, dude.
Yeah, she let's just say, everybody, and I'm sure you'll put this up on screen, but she got a fucking dumpy. She got a dump truck for an
She got a
ass.
fine ass,
Uh
I will say. She kind of she be curvy. She's also
that
voiced. She's voiced by Cornelia Hayes O'Hearley, who hasn't really done a lot of work from what I hear, but she has a very distinct voice.
right. And I don't think she is retired for voice acting, correct?
She's done a project in the 2020s, so I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
she's like retired, but she hasn't done a whole lot is basically what from what I gleaned.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I see.
she's still working, I guess. But yeah, Parker is your main narrator because the bulk of the cutscenes in Fall of Man are set up like a documentary, and Parker's the one who narrates over it and basically gives you the events set between levels and kind of a little introduction to the world. Yeah. Uh. What else could I say on
Yeah,
Parker? She also shows up in Retribution as well, just to get that out of the
right.
way. And
She and you actually get to see her fight in that game as well. Like this
yes,
isn't just, you get to see her only in cutscenes like it is for
Fall of Man.
Fall of Man. She's just the straight narrator. You really only get to see her in cuts. You only get to ever see her in cutscenes. There's no really other interaction that. By the way, isn't she the leader of the, or at least the main leader of the British Resistance?
Yes, because she's a rank higher than Cartwright. So I think by Resistance 3 they both might be generals, but only Cartwright is confirmed.
Right. I think she's a lieutenant in this game,
I
I
think
believe.
I think she's a captain. Yeah,
Oh,
she's a
she's
cap. Yeah,
Captain Park.
We're too close, Captain. On disposition. That's an order.
What's that all?
We're going back to base.
Oh, we're going back to base. And I think Cartwright in this
he's
is a
a
lieutenant.
he's a lieutenant because
He's a
that's
lieutenant,
right
and then
below captain.
he's a major in Retribution.
I think he's a captain and Cartwright's a major.
Okay, well, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. Yeah.
Maybe he's a major and
Um,
then Rachel's a colonel. Uh, maybe I don't know.
Whatever. We'll fix it in editing. You'll see it on screen.
We'll see it. Yeah, but I think she's a fine character. She's also technically in the events of like the expansion packs for the Resistance 2 multiplayer co-op mode. And you can also get her skin in the Resistance 2 multiplayer. And I think in the Resistance 3 multiplayer as well. But yeah, she has
Right.
her story continues in the Resistance 2's multiplayer um in like intel documents that you can get in multiplayer. And one of them I think I think it might be a multiplayer intel document or it might be an intel document that you get in the actual game. But there's a letter that Parker gives to Blake before he departs with the Serpa from Britain because they were trying to like clean out Wales, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And she gives a petter. She gives a letter to pass on to Hale. And the fucking jokes that we've made in the past about it being like a love letter, like a very steamy love letter.
Oh yeah, we made that joke. Yeah.
And then like Hale's reading it like the fuck.
It's just like some nasty ass fucking fanfic where she just like oils up his fucking bald head or
Oh,
shaved head.
oh, oh. She's like, come back to Britain, I'll call you Mr. Clean.
Oh my god.
Because we definitely noted that. I think I think she speaks highly of Hale mostly because of his performance and how he can get the job done. Not really because she's into him, but mostly because of that. But, you know, shippers be shippers. Uh, might be a
Yeah.
might be what is it? But between the pages or whatever it's called, there's some underlying themes there with how Parker looks at Hale. Maybe.
Right. It's never really. I don't think there's any ever. Like there might be some maybe relation. I wouldn't say there's a relationship there, but like Hale fucks in this series. By the way, for anyone who just hasn't really
Yeah.
deep dived into his character, he fucks. He wants to fuck. That is not the issue. So if someone was to tell me that like probably him and Rachel would shack up, I could see it. I could
I
definitely
would believe it.
100%.
Like
All right, but
if he didn't have his heart set on Cassie, which we will talk about her character,
yeah,
I would believe that he and Parker in like a different universe would shack up with each other. Also, we mentioned Cat Winters earlier, and the only reason we did that is because one, he's one of the only other unique character models in the game. Two, he's voiced
yeah,
by Darren Norris. Three, IRL Cat Winters, and four, he dies. So
yeah. He
sad he
had
dies. He got these cool shades and everything. Then he dies.
well, the only thing we're gonna be leaving behind is spinal fluid and a bad smell. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, like
I know we talked about in like if we did the game differently, we'd probably keep Cat and Winters alive.
yeah, he would have like I think it. I almost feel like it's a disservice to his character that he died so quickly, like and had no greater part in the story. Like I almost feel like he could have been like an inoculated character maybe, or like we could have seen more inoculated characters. But like, or if like say if the Spire attack didn't happen, like I could definitely see him being like an integral part of just like a group of survivors from the Operation Deliverance, right, working
Yeah.
alongside the British resistance, and like would have just like he could have died at the Battle of London, right? Like that's where his
Yeah,
character
that's
could
what
have
I'm
died.
thinking. Like, because there's another wave of Americans that come in at the end of the game, and I'm like, well, if Captain Winters was still alive and he just like went along with the rest of the British resistance or like even joined Hale. Yeah, because there is that mechanic where you do get buddies throughout the game. He could
Yep.
have been captured and joined Hale in the conversion center in like whatever it was, I forget.
Oh, Grimsby.
Grimsby. He could have joined them and have like
Right.
a back and forth with Parker or whatever. And then basically, like at the end of the game, they're like, "Ah, oh, the Americans are here. Thankfully, we got Captain Winters to help lead them through London."
Right. Right.
You know,
Um.
he's got his roles, he's got his parts to play, but nah, freaking
Yeah.
Timmy's dad gotta die.
Yeah. Sorry, Timmy. Your dad died in the war. Um. But yeah, that really does it for all the characters in the game, and like it's very short, very sweet, to the point for the most part. I think I, other maybe the exception of Captain Winters, I think that all the characters more or less play a important role, and without them, I don't think Resistance Fall of Man would have been the same. I
Yeah.
think. Um, yeah, so let's move on. So we've done the story, we've done characters, gameplay. How would you describe the gameplay of Resistance Fall of Man?
As I've
Like,
said, it's
did you
very old, very it's old, it's clunky, but you can kind of get around with it if you play around with the control options and kind of get it to be a bit more modern. The only thing you're gonna be annoyed with is the crouching and the aim down sights
Mhm.
mechanics. That's the only thing that's really gonna bother you.
it oh
Also,
sorry,
no
you finished.
sprint, no sprint for the mid 2000s, no sprint thing.
Yeah, that definitely was well, I wouldn't say it doesn't, it's like not all that noticeable or bad, but it's like you're fast walking everywhere. I think it's okay
Mm-hmm.
with how everything runs and whatnot, but it's I would, if you are a modern gamer, if you were born in the early 2000s or 90s or something like that, and you play it now, I definitely think you would probably be like, oh God, what is this shit, right? I also I have to also bring up the point that I think that like the default mapping of the controls for Resistance Fall of Man fucking threw me through a fucking loop, dude.
Yeah.
Like I think that like the R3 toggle was sights down, and I think the secondary fire was like either L1 or L2, not the standard like R2. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing? And I think also the weapon wheel was like L1 or something like that. So like, dude, like anybody who's going to play Resistance Fall of Man for the first time, experience it for yourself. Experience the horror of the default mapping for the controller, and then immediately go into your settings and change the format to normal modern day shooter mapping. But I also have to agree with you as well as with the toggle on and off of like the sights down looking down the sights that was it can be useful sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
also a little bit wonky. But however, I do think you get a lot of opportunity to just basically fire from the hip, and it's pretty accurate. And it honestly makes the fighting moments a little bit more cinematic sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Some people on the server have definitely said that Fall of Man was designed to be played more like Doom, and I don't
mhm.
disagree, but at the same time, I don't agree. I think there's multiple ways you can approach the gunplay for Fall of Man, but it being like a run and gun is not really what I think Fall of Man is. There's too many different enemy types that you
Mhm.
get early in the game that really aren't the run and gun style. Like you definitely need to take your time with them. Like the Howlers and the
Mhm.
Steelheads being some examples when you get to the Cathedral,
Oh, and the split
especially
skulls as well.
the Slip Skulls. Yes, when you do your second playthrough and get the Reaper Carbines, they're much easier to deal with. But on your very
Mhm.
first playthrough, they will be an obstacle, quite the obstacle.
Yeah. And I do have to say that like especially on the higher difficulties, especially like superhuman and hard, like man, it is you have to really take your time with that. It is brutal.
Mm.
Um, but I will also say some of the like the gameplay for like dodging like using actual cover and the wonky press and hold down for crouching, especially going through minefields or having to like take care of specifically like the concussion mines, man. Oh, those have been run enders for me a many a time, and it sometimes it's just like I don't get the timing right or something like that, or I fuck up pressing the crouch button at the right time, or forgetting that it's like not on and off crouching. It's rough. It's a rough time. Um, but I will say though, probably my favorite thing about the gameplay for Resistance has to be its variety of weapons that you have available to you.
Yes,
And I was gonna say, you go ahead and you lead
yeah.
into that discussion.
This was up to that point a weapon wheel Insomniac specialty because before that they did Ratchet and Clank, and they could make some pretty good weapons in Ratchet and Clank as far as I can see. And Fall of Man is no different. You have a variety of weapons, but some of them, you really won't be using a lot, especially on like later playthroughs. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're probably going to be using the main core weapons most of the time. Uh, the Hailstorm is pretty useful when dealing with like a crowd of Chimera. The Arc Charger is useful against like rollers and leapers. The Zapper is just like a weapon that you just don't ever use.
I
Ever.
think the sapper. I think the sapper, in my opinion, is only useful when you understand like from like this is like definitely more useful in your future playthroughs when you know where enemies are going to spawn or if you know they're going to rush you, right? So you can preemptively lay
Yeah.
down sapper mines to just kind of take care of the bulk of them.
Yeah.
But
The
you
enemy.
are you are. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
The first enemy type it throws at you to like test the Zapper out are the menials. So it's more like a crowd control weapon than anything.
Right. I definitely will say that there are definitely weapons that I use one time and that's it. Sapper being one of them. Let's see. Probably the hailstorm because as much as fun as the hailstorm is, they don't give you a lot of ammunition for it throughout the levels after the once you get it, right? Um Probably also I very much switch between like my main two weapons that I use most of the time is literally the bullseye or the carbine. Like the two main weapons that you get from the very beginning of the game because they're just so versatile
Hmm.
in my opinion. Um in taking down enemies.
Yeah,
Uh
the bullseye, the carbine, the M5A2 Folsom carbine, full name, the auger, the far eye, the Reaper carbines in your second playthrough onward, um,
mhm.
the arc charger, sometimes, um,
Or if you just want to go easy mode, Reaper carbines
yeah,
for
you're not even really gonna be using the shotgun a lot.
no,
Like
like
I'm not that great with shotguns in video games because you have to get up really close. But even then, like even the basic hybrid could take like a slug or two from the shotgun.
right. By the way, for anybody like interesting tidbit. Um, you know what's crazy about the shotgun? Because you can get it in Grimsby, right? If you know where you're, or if you know where to get it. But it flew by me for most of my early playthroughs of like Resistance Fall of Man, and I wouldn't get it until Manchester. Like, yeah, because I never knew that you could find it either below the steps on one of the outside areas or behind the bar at the little village area. And I was just like, huh. So I've been missing this for an entire fucking level. That's crazy. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
even
Um,
the splitter, which you get like way later in the game, is
oh
just
yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's useful against Titans. I'll
Yeah.
say that it's useful against the big boys, but yeah, not a whole lot. And
Um,
the uh,
oh, go ahead.
the Bullseye Mark II doesn't really count because it's
Right.
just the Bullseye but blue.
Blue and maybe a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, it's a little more
Um,
accurate. It has a little bit more punch to it as a little different sound effect, but overall it's kind of the same gun.
right. The dragon's breath, but again,
Yeah,
you don't get a lot of ammo for it, but it's definitely fun to cook through enemies
it's
with.
another crowd
Um,
control weapon. You know the part in Bracknell where the elevators that comes up with
yeah.
menials? That's where I use the dragon's breath most of the time.
Also, I would have to say that sometimes the secondary fires for some of the weapons aren't as intuitive as some of the other ones. Like specifically, I didn't really know how to use the air brake mechanic for the Lark until I watched Silent Sergeant use it to just like cook through enemies. I forget. I think it was a stalker that he used it against, right? And he air braked it, and I think it just like killed it instantly. And I was like, huh. And now that's a glitch. Just so everybody listening, that's a glitch. That's not actually a real mechanic. But I didn't know you could stop it. Like I didn't know that's how the air brake worked. I didn't know you could stop the missile and then point it towards a enemy like that. That I thought that was cool as shit. But also the splitter, right? And then you can just like you can take the shot, hold it, use the secondary fire to split it into more, so it can be a more area of an effect, like basically like a futuristic shotgun almost. That is kind of sometimes I feel like in the run and gun moments that is a lot of times in the resistance fall of man moments, like especially when hybrids are rushing you, which they will do when they get too tired of just you peeking and playing hide and seek with them, or they're low enough health. I feel like the splitter is definitely not a useful weapon, especially when you get it, because I think you get it in the is it the train station in the outskirts of London or something like that.
You get it? Um, when the fuck do you get it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking
I
it's in
think it's
London when
right
you get it.
before. Yeah, it's in London. Like I think before the first Titan fight, like right after the tank level. I
No, I don't
don't,
think it's right after the. I think it's like
cause
right.
that's
I think it's
cause
the very
that's
first level.
cause that's when I use it. No, I think that's when you get it. Is when you finish the tank level and then you do your first fight with the Titans. I think that's when you get it.
Maybe. Um, but yeah, like I will say it is nice that basically I think the splitter is like your last weapon that you get for your weapon wheel. But
Mm-hmm.
like I'm very impressed that they made basically every level you get a new weapon, which is nice. And it kind of just like it's like, oh, especially if it's the first time playthrough, it's like, oh man, a new weapon this level? Fuck yeah. You know?
Just
Great.
just try not
Um
to miss the backblast grenades.
yeah, try not to miss the back blast grenades because especially on higher difficulties, those are a godsend. Um,
Uh,
because the yeah, because the back blast grenades are very easily missed, and actually, I think even the air fuel grenades are also an easily missed grenade as well.
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
oh man, I gotta mention the auger shield in Fall of Man, dog shit. Unlike the bubble shields that you get in 2 and 3.
yeah, yeah, it's basically like plywood, go,
A 2x4, boo.
boom.
I barely use the fucking shields in Fall of Man. They're
Oh,
small
the
and they're dumb. Like anything can walk around it.
Oh yeah, the only time I ever fucking use a an auger shield in Resistance Fall of Man is to panic build a barrier around me. I'll use all the shots of the secondary fire for the auger to build like a makeshift like shitty better. It's basically like you know how a bubble shield that you get from the future games. It's basically like that, but like shitty plywood fucking auger shield. It's just like, yes, this will protect me in the last ditch effort to survive this onslaught of the fucking hybrids. Um, so yeah, I definitely think overall that like I love the variety of grenades and weapons and the weapon wheel in general for Resistance Fall of Man. However, I feel like they could have better like things they could have done better is that giving you more opportunities to use these specific mechanics for these weapons like per level, especially when you get them. It's like, okay, you really can't get through this level if you unless you like really intuitively use this weapon, right? This new weapon and going forward. Also, more ammo drops for those specific unique ammo or weapons, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
encourages you to use it more often, right? Um, and maybe better like uh
Implementation.
yeah, of the secondary fire for some of the more unique weapons, like or maybe just better like explaining how they work or how to better use them, I guess. But yeah, um,
Yeah.
there.
We're
Do you have
now
any final thoughts about the weapons?
we're
Because I
now
have another topic.
we're now 2 hours into the episode.
Okay, gotcha.
Just letting you
Do you
know,
want to?
because we also
Do you
have to
want to take a?
we have to cover like a bunch of other games, and I don't know how much time we have left for that.
Oh, okay. Oh wait, do we want to? Do we just want to talk about Resistance Fall of Man for this episode, or do you want to like?
If we want to do a part 2 where we talk about the rest, that's completely fine.
I think that would be better. I think because we're spending so much time on just Fall of Man. You know, I feel like it'd be good for just one episode, and
Yeah,
we can do more.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
our final thoughts.
Well, for weapons specifically, I
Yeah,
have one more topic.
I think the weapons, like you've said, some of the weapons have some pretty good secondary options. The carbine has grenade launcher. The bullseye has a tag, which is really useful on things like the stalker and bigger enemies like the titan. The auger shield is kind of useless. The arc charger secondary is pretty good, especially for big crowds like the leapers, like I mentioned before. The air brake was something I didn't know existed, and it's only brought back in Retribution, and then it's completely dropped in 2 for like these scatter missiles. The Reaper Carbine's secondaries is basically dual wielding.
Shotgun is just
A
double blast.
double blast, yeah. The splitter secondary, I think, is you keep splitting it, You keep splitting the splitter ammo.
Yeah, and it just makes a
Uh,
giant wall of like splitter shots.
yeah, the sapper is just basically exploding all the bubbles that you just put down, and then
Mhm.
I don't even know what the
And
dragon's breath has.
oh, it's just like basically you like it launches like a fire and then it's just kind of like burns in that specific area. It's basically just like a napalm charge that's gonna burn for a few seconds.
Mm,
So like if there's like a bunch of enemies running at you, they'll run into it and catch fire.
all right.
And then the far eye has just like the slowdown mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some pretty good iconic weapons in Fall of Man that they kept around for a bit, even in Retribution.
Mhm.
And then they dropped some of them in Resistance 3. Like they kept the bullseye. The carbine you get like you get like close to the end of the game technically. Like you get on the train level, which is like the fourth to the last level.
Yeah, so you don't get much time to upgrade it and play around with it.
Yeah, even though the upgrades for it are pretty damn good. The
Oh
Ro-
my god, yeah.
the Rossmore sticks around, but it keeps getting changed every game.
Yeah.
Um,
Um the grenade types are pretty nice. I think that they like
yeah, you got your
have their
regular,
own unique.
yeah, you got your regular
Yeah, they
frag
just
grenade. You got the back blast grenade, which is basically
hedgehog.
a shield bubble. The hedgehog grenade, the air fuel grenade, and then back blast doesn't return, but hedgehog, frag, and air fuel return to resistance 2, along with the spider grenade that
Mhm.
the Marauders launch. And then Resistance 3 was like, oh, if you get the special edition of Resistance 3 with all this shit, you get a little code that allows you to get the air fuel grenade. I'm like, you fucking bastards.
Yeah, yeah. But and then they also give you like the EMP grenades, which like you rarely ever use outside like fuck when it was. When's the last time? Like, I mean, I guess you can
I
use it to
completely
like,
forgot that the EMP grenades were a thing, dude. Holy shit.
yeah, I know, right? They're just so like not useful. Like, I mean, they are useful when you go against any kind of like
like,
robotic,
you got like the stalkers, and you just need to take down their shields and shit.
yeah, or take down the shields of like an auger secondary fire. But like, dude, it's very rare you're ever gonna really. Oh, and I guess maybe if you hit them right, you could like short circuit the hybrid's heat stack and it overloads it and kills them. But I think that's on a rare occasion.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not something that you're gonna use a lot, but yeah, I think I've said everything about like weapons and whatnot. So let's move into our final topic of Resistance: Fall of Man before we move on to our final thoughts or overall thoughts. Enemies. What was your opinion on the variety of enemies, but just enemy types also, and specifically in Resistance: Fall of Man?
I'm glad that Insomniac focused on giving us a variety of enemies instead of just copying and pasting one enemy type. Like
Mm-hmm.
even the hybrids, which are your basic Chimera soldier, have different types. They got like
Mm-hmm.
they got naked commando ones. They got ones with trousers, these big fucking pants. You got the advanced hybrids in the tower where they got these spiky cooling packs and they got like
Mm-hmm.
goggles and shit on. The steelheads are these tall motherfuckers with a big ass gun with like one big cooling pack on the back. The hard fangs. I love the hard fangs. They're these hunchback guys with these shoulder guards with this big
Mm-hmm.
ass gun and they got a big mouth that looks like it looks like the that prehistoric shark, if you know
Oh,
what I'm.
Megalodon.
No, not Megalodon. It's like it was the shark of its era, of its time,
Mm.
if you know what I'm talking about. It's like even bigger than a shark. It was this massive creature with this very distinct mouth, and they like found a fossil of its head only. And it's
Gotcha.
like
I don't know.
huge, dude. It's big. I love it.
Gotcha.
It reminds me of that. The slip skulls are creepy as fuck, dude. Like if you ever look at the eyes of them,
Yeah, man.
these lanky motherfuckers. The Titans are these big brutal beasts, and they just have a fucking stalker cannon for their weapon.
Yep,
They're
yep.
just they're
Which
just
is what
holding it. They're not even like there's no button to shoot it from. They're just holding it and her using orc wah power to like make the thing fire.
they are indeed big dudes.
They are big dude, big man, big guy,
A big boy,
big boy, big beefy boy. um,
big gentleman.
the angels are creepy as shit.
Yeah.
They've always creeped me out, and the music accompanying them is really that. Oh my god, so many cool enemy
I
types, so many cool textures on them. I just
hmm
the Grey Jacks are also pretty creepy. The menials. Oh, here's another story. My brother would get hail bitten by the menials on purpose because it'd make me laugh and piss my pants for some reason. Like I thought it was just some funny shit to watch the menials just bite gouges out of hail. Also, also I never had this, but the leapers, you've experienced it before, pretty sure. The leapers can jump up on you and do the
Yep.
same thing.
Yeah. Which is very rare, but it's very interesting when it happens. It's like, damn, that's a crazy mechanic that I never knew happened. Also, I was gonna say about the menials biting you. It's just like POV. You're the special ed teacher, and you got that one biters.
Oh my god. Dear Lord.
um,
He's trying to escape. He's loose.
he's, he's loose. Everybody lock your doors. He's a biter.
We got a code red lockdown at the school because the biter escaped the classroom.
um, but yeah, the diversity of simply the
Chimera.
resistance or the chimera. Yeah, not resistance. Oh my god, what was I
The
fucking talking
resistance.
about? The resistance. The diversity of the chimera enemy types is crazy. Like you think you've seen it all? Nah, brother. There's more to see. And like if you know the background and lore of just like the I guess you could call it like a bestiary of like the chimeran forms like hell resistance 3 you basically get to see like the menials which were basically the first chimeran forms, right? And then you also get to see the hybrids which are the more modern soldiers of the chimeran force, and then you
Wait.
actually get to see
You said Resistance 3.
oh resistance 3.
I was
Oh
yeah. You said Resistance 3, and I was like, the Medials weren't in Resistance 3.
oh no, like the menials being like the first form of chimera
Mm,
that are seen in lore, right? Or the most common. And
mm.
then you get to see the hybrids, which are the most modern, common forms of chimera. And then you get to see the greyjacks, which are the final stage or life of the hybrids. So you get to see it basically all the way up to how they evolve and form as they go. And then like also the leapers, you get to kind of see how they change. You know, leapers become or is it rollers? Are they called rollers?
Rollers and leapers become like one thing. They were originally called Swarmers in Resistance 2 and all the promotional material, and then the game they were just
Right.
called Leapers.
Gotcha. Now is it the leapers? Because I know the trap hunter never made it into the game. By the way, trap hunter was another chimeran type for people who don't know that. Was it? Was it that they turn into trap hunters and then they turn into widowmakers, or they just go from leapers to widowmakers?
So the if you remember the crawlers evolve into leapers, but I don't think leapers
Gotcha.
evolve into anything after that. I think they're just two different strands
Gotcha.
of leapers. But yeah, there's also the Widowmaker, which I failed to mention. Love the Widowmaker. Very scary creature, something out of like the Mist. If you've
Yeah.
ever seen that, like at the end of the movie, it shows like one of the monsters. I'm pretty sure.
I'll be honest with you. I love the Resistance Fall of Man one more than I do, or Widowmaker more than I do the Resistance 3 one, because all I can see when I look at the Resistance 3 Widowmaker is just elongated face of Chimeran hybrid.
Yeah, it's quite the departure from like the daddy long leg looking Widowmaker that we got in Fall of Man.
Right.
And this one's more of like the average spider, just a big
Right.
boy now. It looks like a, even though it came out like 3 years before, it looks a little bit like the Muto or the Mutos from Godzilla 2014.
Right.
It's kind of got that little feel to it with like the backside and the head shape and the amount of legs it has.
Right.
But yeah, fun fact: the Widowmaker was supposed to be in Resistance 2, but it was cut due to a loss of time during development. Because around this time, Insomniac thought it was a fun idea to juggle around doing Resistance and Ratchet and Clank and whatever and what other video game that they had on their plate. Very smart move there, Insomniac. Definitely didn't hurt the Ratchet and Clank and Resistance IPs. No, sir.
No siree. Um, yeah. Um, and then finally, the angel, such a interesting and cool like boss creature,
Yeah.
able to throw like these darts at you that like are spines that like make you hallucinate or whatever, and then also being able to throw fucking giant exploding power rods, which you can also use against them by shooting them while they hold it. But yeah, like really cool, interesting giant creature.
And then they get in lore. Daedalus was like, you know what? I don't want you guys anymore. Goodbye, and then just eliminated
I'm
them.
done playing with you.
I don't want to play with you anymore. Lick my balls.
Ligma. What's Ligma? Or it's like Ligma. Ligma balls?
Hey, angels. Ligma. What's Ligma? Ligma balls. No! Gone.
um,
Reduced to atoms. It nearly killed the hive mind, but the work is done. It always will be. I am. Table.
um, but yeah, that's kind of it for the creatures and variety. I think they did a good job with the
Yes.
variety, and I think they all mechanically work. Other than sometimes I feel like it's a little unfair when the hybrids kind of rush you like they do and can be bullet spongy, or a lot of it. Some of the enemies can be very much bullet spongy without any type of reaction to any of your like attacks other than hybrids jumping out of the way when you throw a grenade or something like that.
Yeah.
But overall, great design, great variety, fun to fight. Uh
Yeah. I know we didn't talk about the levels. Um, the level is quickly. The
oh,
level design's pretty good. If you want to learn more about the lighting for the levels, just go to ericgooch.com. Look at his blog. A lot of information on the lighting of the levels and level design overall.
I'm sure we could have a link in the description if you guys want to
Mm.
really check that out.
And we do eventually want to do a lot of sit downs and interviews with old Resistance devs, among them Ted Price, the former CEO of Insomniac Games and lead director of Resistance Fall of Man and Resistance 2. And we'd like
Yes.
to sit down with Mr. Gooch, among other developers who've worked on all three games, or maybe just worked on Fall of Man, or just worked on 2, or worked on 3, along with the developers of Retribution and Burning Skies.
Right.
Yeah, we eventually do want to do
Um
that, and hopefully, despite the name of the podcast, we we would definitely like to eventually have those interviews and conversations with those people in a very casual but definitely formal manner.
right.
Ask them a lot of
Um
questions. Yeah.
yeah. Well, we could talk about the levels a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because I totally forgot about like the levels. I guess I can go on my thoughts
Mm-hmm.
about like the level design. I really think that the levels themselves, right? If you really look closely at them, there's not a lot of stuff in those environments, right? Because if you look like closely at like interior design or whatever, like for like a room or whatever, it's like you got a table, a refrigerator,
Mm-hmm.
static objects, and
And
that's about it.
and some of those objects might
It's
not
not,
even be static, surprisingly.
yeah, which is kind of cool and fun because there's plenty of times where I'll just melee a fucking refrigerator and watch the door swing open. You know
Yeah.
that shit's fun to me. Or some I think some of the like pool balls are actually movable objects as well if you find like a pool table, which is pretty cool and pretty interactive. Um, but for the most part, there's not a lot of clutter filling these spaces. Like it definitely, I think it plays more to the mood of like, ah, yes, this is an apocalyptic type of event, and there's not a lot of shit around that hasn't been destroyed or used up. But it's, but as like how the gameplay flows, I don't think most people will ever really notice that unless you really look at it. Because you're going to be more worried about like when's the next Chimeran fucking guy going to come around the corner and whoop my ass, right? Um, or just moving forward. Like these are, other than maybe exception to the Cheddar Gorge mission, the levels are very funneled. Like they will very much. There's not a lot of room to move around unless it's like a battle area, like a battle hub, I guess you could call it, right? Where like it's definitely going to be a lot of fighting. Um, but for the most part, it's very like I think it does a lot with the levels do a lot with like environmental storytelling. Like you got Grimsby, which is a conversion center, and you can watch all of the like cocoon process go on all the way up to the birthing of these cocoons, which is pretty interesting and very in-depth lore. Or like maybe the inside of a lot of the chimera, like the Chimeran Tower. You can see the inner workings of that. You can see like the angels being in their cocoons and going to be birthed. Well, you don't get to see in birth, but you get to see like these big fucking like sacks with
Mm-hmm.
angels in them. Um, I guess also have to say like sometimes if you go in the right way, maybe you'll get like a little treat like some more ammo or finding a Black Ops unit guy and you can listen to their radio comms. Um, but really other outside of like the main stages of like combat, there's not a lot to these levels. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So they're I wouldn't say like they're the most grand or wild. They do well for environmental storytelling and they just kind of get the job done, you know.
Yeah.
So and I would and like it's not a very colorful game either. Like it's very dark, it's very brown, but that was like on par for like games of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of games were like on that kind of like dark brown gray color scale for a lot of their games. And I guess it also just hammers in the point. It's like this is a dirty, grimy, apocalyptic type war, you know? So I guess it might work for it, but like it's not colorful if you're looking for color.
Yeah.
Um, but I would definitely say sometimes like it's a fun interactive like especially if you're I think it's like the Bracknell level towards the end of it where you're jumping on the little vent fans that'll lift you up and like make you go farther like up the tower. Those are kind of fun. Those are interactive, you know. um I definitely think it would have been a lot, the levels were meant to be a lot more interactable with the grappling hook and like and whatnot, but like for the most part, well, and also I think there might be challenging too, especially if you're trying to avoid like minefields and stuff like that. Like you got to really duck and time your jumps and crouches with the propulsion mines.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. But for the most part, it's nothing too surprising or too unique, I would say, compared to other games. Like there's definitely not a lot of verticality or like anything like that, you know. So it's pretty bog standard for a shooter, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, what did you have any thoughts on the levels?
Yeah. I'd say the levels are pretty fun and environmental storytelling, environmental hazards, just anything to do with the environment definitely shows how much dedication the developers actually put into the game. It's not like one level really has all this stuff. just about all the levels has something unique to them when it comes to their environments. Like
Hmm.
they're like in a lot of places where there's battles, usually have like explosions happening from artillery shells. In the conversion center, like Philip said, you can see the conversion process is happening around you, and the cocoons being taken through all these different tubes. There's also a lot of good ambiance in each level, especially when you're in Bracknell or when you're in the tower. There's this hum
Hmm.
in this like you got this like cave hum, and then you got like the tower hum where you get to hear just the electricity of the whole place just hum throughout, and the music that accompanies that really emphasizes the not the themes, but definitely the fuck, just the emotion of the whole level, essentially.
Right.
Very dark, very decrepit, very hopeless, I would say.
Right.
There's
Also,
and
oh, sorry,
all
you
that
finish.
all this is pretty much there in the following games too, 2 and 3 in particular. Oh, I would say that like when it comes to some interactive things, it kind of decreases as the games go on. Like what we said, like you could like slap a fridge and the doors will open. I'm pretty sure you can do that in like Resistance 2 as well, but in something like Resistance
Hmm.
3, that may not happen. I think they might have dropped that.
I
But
think I think almost everything in Resistance 3 is static,
yeah,
environmentally at least.
yeah. And that's just something I do love about level design, and it's something people recently with a new game that came out, a new fantasy game. A lot of things are static. You can't really interact with anything, including characters. And it's like, well, Skyrim came out like 10 years ago, and almost everything in that game is interactive.
Right.
You can talk to any character you want. You can interact with any item, essentially, like a basket, a plate, food, weapons, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically like these. There are some games that may not have high standards in some areas, but they definitely have high standards in others. I think Fall of Man is this good balance of standards. Because
Hmm.
say what you will about Skyrim, I think some of the best things are in that game are definitely your interactions with the environment and
Right.
just the physics that the game has, which could also be applicable to something like Fallout, which was also developed by
Hmm.
Bethesda.
Hmm.
And there's some games that continue to do that, depending on their genre, where a lot of things are very much interactive. Like you can break a glass window, or you just really have a lot of freedom in the game to do what you want. Some games don't let you
Right.
do
Right.
that, and that's fine, because that's not really their intention. But
Hmm.
in this one fantasy game that came out, where I think it's in the first person, which Skyrim you can swap between third person and first person, so
Hmm.
people kind of like there's similarities between the two, and they'll compare the two of them, and it's like Skyrim came out 10 years ago, had all this game came out this year, doesn't have any of this, what the hell.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to add to the levels. It is a big shame that they never continued with the vehicle levels in the next games. Man, those were some of the best levels ever. Like you got to drive the tank to two different levels, got to do this, you use the stalker in two different levels. And I mean, you got to use the links one time, but I think the
No, you
level
get to
that they
use the
use it
links
in was
twice.
perfect.
Get to use the links twice.
Oh yeah, you did. You get to use it twice because you also get to use it in the same level you use the stalker in the London mission.
To
You're
fight
right.
the
You're right.
Goliath,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You are correct.
I
And
think
what's even better is that like when you're playing co-op, you can also ride in those same vehicles in first person, which is the coolest shit ever. Like manning a turret on like the Lynx or the tank, man, that shit's awesome as fuck.
mhm. I think
Uh
the way that the games
yeah.
were written didn't really have a lot of space to incorporate those levels. And Resistance 2, I think, had they written it differently, I think the vehicles that you would be using most would be flying vehicles, like
A VTOL or
the
something,
VTOL,
or a
or even the shuttle that you fly up to the battleship at the end of Oric.
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, yeah,
But
but you in Resistance 3 you get a train. That's the only vehicle you
uh,
get. Oh, and a boat, and a boat. You get a boat and a train.
and a boat, autistics everywhere. We're
Check it
like,
off the
yes.
autism list. I am happy. Boat
Yeah.
and train. And those are some of
Boat
the
entry.
those are some of the most fun levels in Resistance 3.
Yeah. If you're a amateur game creator, add vehicle levels to your games. Those are always the funnest.
Unless you're the Frontier developers, in which case just don't. Just don't do that. It's Fallout.
uh
Don't do that.
okay. Finally wrapping up this discussion of Resistance Fall of Man. We've relatively thoroughly covered all the different aspects of Resistance Fall of Man. Liam, do you have any final thoughts about Resistance Fall of Man before we end this podcast episode?
Resistance Fall of Man is a very important game to me. Um, it was one of the many pieces of media back in my childhood that sparked my love for science fiction, among other things like Star Wars and fuck if I know. I know that
Yeah.
later on in my childhood, before reaching the age of 12, which is where about most people think childhood ends, there have been a number of
Hmm.
other influences like Aliens versus Predator, Halo, Crisis, and a bunch of others that I could list off. But yeah, Fall of Man is very important. It's a big inspiration for me. Along with Resistance 2 and 3. Even though down the line in part 2, we will probably shit on Resistance 3, but there are some things I do. I'm just being honest. We will more than likely
It's it.
shit on Resistance 3, but there are things that I do like about that game.
Right. Um, for me, for Resistance Fall of Man, a very dear and near childhood experience that I will forever cherish and still continue to cherish to this day, and will continue to play it regularly. And hopefully, gamers, me and my best friend Liam here will be able to play it together come the summer. So
Come
be
May,
a great
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, a day to remember. Um, so that will be fun. Oh, I guess we also forgot like one of the few couch co-op games of modern times. Fucking fantastic, great. Um, glad that has option, but that's we're already past that point. But I'm just gonna say, glad it
Mm-hmm.
had co-op. Perfect. Um, but yeah, that's all of my thoughts for Resistance Fall, man. Great game. Still is a great game to this day. Um, yeah. So I guess we can kind of give him an outro. Liam?
Well, thank you all for joining us on the Bricked Up podcast, building your algorithm brick by brick. We thank you for coming in on our first episode, giving us a chance, and hopefully you guys will stick around for part 2. We have plenty of topics after Resistance to talk about, like basically our special interests like Batman or Godzilla or Transformers, whatever's on our mind. And as new stuff comes out, like movies from like Jurassic Park comes out, if we watch those movies, we will give our opinions on them. Do a little special episode for y'all. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.